Hey everybody, today I'm going to be teaching you the first little phase of what we will be studying for the performance element of theater, which is voice. Voice, of course, falls under the acting element of the performance element. Um, and I like to start with kind of breaking down the different aspects of acting with um, the first marking period of taking theater. So let's go ahead and get right to it because it's not a super long presentation, but it is still pretty it's not quite as much writing as you guys did last week. So slideshow, play from the start. There we go. All right, so in your notes in your theater notebook, you should write voice production and articulation as the title for today's information. Okay, so when we do theater, your voice is very important, especially at this level of theater since you're not technically on Broadway yet and you're not being mic'd. But even if you were mic'd, your voice quality is still really important. You need to be loud enough to be heard. And I'll say that loud enough for the people in the back. You need to be loud enough to be heard. Even when we're just sitting in class and you guys are mumbling your answers to me, I know it's tough with our masks on, but um, hopefully this year you guys will learn how to project your voices even through those masks. Your voice needs to be flexible enough to add subtle layers of character, emotional texture, and meaning to your lines. So we're not just up there sounding like a robot or monotone and being bored and making our audience bored. And it also needs to be strong enough to withstand long rehearsals and intense performances. Again, at this level, that's not that huge, but say when you get to high school credit and you're doing a lot of rehearsing all of the time, or if you go on to do musicals, you need to have a strong voice. And an actor should never stop working on improving their voice. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't acted in years, so my voice is a little tired. But as a teacher, I even have to work my voice as a teacher because by the end of the day, my voice sometimes will be really tired just from all the talking I do. So, voice production. So, you don't have to write all of this down, but here's just a little mini lesson on how. Sorry, I don't even think you can see that title. Can you? I can't move it. Okay. Oh, nah. Sorry. So, here's a little kind of backstory of how your voice works. So your speech or sounds are made by air force through the lungs by the diaphragm. The exhaled air vibrates the vocal cords in the larynx. And I have a picture, so I'm going to show you all of this stuff. And sound produced is modified by the resonators. So the resonators are your throat, your nose, your mouth, and your sinuses. So these are all like, think of them as like the amplifiers, or if you had speakers, these are just holes inside of your body where air makes noise. And then the sound is formed into vowels and consonants by the articulators. That's your tongue, your jaw, your teeth, cheeks, lips, and your hard and your soft palates inside of your mouth. So these are the things that you have movable control. So for example, I can produce sound without moving my articulators. I can just do this and go, hmm. But I didn't do all that much with it. But if I add in my articulators, then it's able to make sense. And the articulators is where accent comes in. So if you notice someone who is from Texas has a different accent than someone who is from, say, New York City. And it's not because there's anything super weird about us or anything like that. It's because different parts of the nation and different parts of the world, when we speak, we use our articulators differently and the way that we mold our words. And that's how the accents are formed. So again, here's a little diagram of everything I'm talking about. So in theater, the most important muscle you can have in theater probably is the diaphragm, which is this muscle down here that protects your stomach, but it also pushes the air out of your lungs. And so oftentimes before you're a trained actor, if you're a very quiet person in particular or a shy person, you talk from here. So it's normal. It's your normal talking voice where you're talking from here. but an actor talks from their diaphragm. So you're taking a lot of air in, but you're using your diaphragm to help push that air out so that you're not getting out of breath. So for example, when we're in the cafeteria, instead of talking at this voice, you may hear me talking this loud. I'm not yelling, but I'm making sure that you guys can hear me when I'm talking louder. And then again, the air comes through the lungs, through the esophagus, and in here is your larynx and your vocal pipe. This is where the sound is really created, with that air getting pushed through, and all your resonators, this is where that is all formed. Little science lesson. All right, so this stuff we do need to have written down. It says, when exercising voice, you will work to achieve these 3 things. So controlled breathing. That might seem ridiculous. This is super important, especially for anyone who is singing and dancing on stage. If you have a really long monologue, maybe your character speaks very fast, and so you need to learn how to take that inhale of breath really fast in between lyrics. Like if you watch Hamilton, sorry to always reference Hamilton, but if you go back and you watch Hamilton with all that rapping, if they did not have the ability to control their breath, they would not be able to be pumping out 7 words per second. That's how fast Thomas Jefferson raps in that. It's 7 words per second. And you can't do that if you can't control your breath. Then you have resonance. That's a rich, warm sound quality. I really can't explain resonance very well. It's just the quality of your voice and whether it's even a quality that people want to listen to. And then you have variety. So we look for things like pitch, which is the relative highness and lowness of a voice. Men, of course, have a lower pitch normally than women do. But for example, that monologue we watched last week for Monologue Monday, a lot of you said that woman sounded like a man, and it's because her pitch, she has a very low pitch. And then the volume, again, is the strength of your voice. It's how much that diaphragm is punching that air out. And then you have inflection, which is the variety of your vocal pitch. So we're not always staying down at a low pitch, and we're not always up here at a high pitch. It's the ability to go high and go low all the time. But not quite that ridiculously. That was just a mass example. And then rate is the speed of your speech. So that's how fast you're talking. If I am going blah, 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 you're not going to understand what I'm saying all the time. But if I take my time and say my words and vary the way that I say my words, it'll sound more natural to the way that we speak in real life. So again, proper breathing. Again, I know you guys can't see it. There you go. Proper breathing. Must breathe from the diaphragm in order to have proper theater breathing. And the chest cavity stays still while the waist expands and contracts. So I can't really do this example because typically you do it laying down. But when we breathe, our belly doesn't normally go in and out real big. It's our chest that goes up and down. But in theater, when we're using our belly, you're blowing that belly up and down. Sorry, you can't see my hand. You're blowing that belly up and down. So instead of being like, it's more from here. And you can't see me, but I'm popping my belly in and out. And breathing from the diaphragm requires less effort than chest breathing, and it also helps you have more breath. All right, let's talk about that richer tone. Tone depends on many things, some which cannot be changed. Again, it's just kind of the sound of your voice. You can learn to make the most of what you've got by keeping your throat open and controlling your breath. So keeping your throat open has to do with just how relaxed your throat is and things like that. And then the tone creates the emotional color. We are going to have different tones of voice depending on what we're talking about. For example, if I am yelling at a kid for doing, something bad, my tone is going to be different than, say, if I just saw a puppy. So tone is what kind of gets us those variations of understanding the different emotions. Then we have articulation and pronunciation. You definitely need to know these 2 words and the difference between these 2 words. So articulation is clearly pronouncing words. Poor articulation is the result of carelessness and sluggish speech. This can cause real problems on stage. I'm going to tell you guys now, articulation is one of the biggest problems we have here at Manor. If you just listen to each other speak. Everyone kind of blurs their words a little bit. You don't want to sound too excited about life. There seems to be this idea that if you speak clearly, you're kind of stuck up, or something like that, or just not cool. So in theater, we really can't be having that. If you're on stage in particular, you need to be talking as clearly and as articulately as you can. So that's where those tongue twisters we do comes in. That's where whether the weather be cold comes in. It's making sure that we are articulating our words. And then we have pronunciation. This is saying a word properly. So if you remember me talking about the word hyperbole a couple weeks ago, this was in one class period, and how when I was in school online, I thought it was hyperbole. So it's just that example. We're saying our words properly. And next, let's talk about how to protect your voice. It is very important if you want to be an actor to take care of that voice. You need to eat well, you need to get enough sleep, and exercise regularly. That's going to help keep you fit so that you can perform to your maximum. Don't smoke or don't drink alcohol, which you should not be doing that anyway. Never strain your voice by shouting or singing in an inappropriate range. So it's really important that you protect your voice. If you're shouting, it means that you're probably not using your diaphragm. It's coming more from your chest. And singing in an inappropriate range means that you're pushing your voice to a place where your voice hasn't been trained to go. Also, never shout yourself hoarse at a ball game or any type of thing where you're shouting yourself hoarse. Having a crying jag and screaming your head off, or anything like that. You just don't want to shout to the point where you literally give yourself a sore throat. And then our focus for this week, we're going to actually talk a lot about voiceover actors. These are people that are actors, obviously, but they do work typically on radio spots, television commercials, corporate training films, documentary and educational film narration, and cartoons. And most voice actors have CD demos that showcase their talents. So again, that's going to be our focus for this week, is the different types of voiceover actors out there. And it certainly is a very plausible career choice, and one that you can even do from home nowadays. So that's pretty cool. So again, I hope you got a couple of these notes. There will be a few on a quiz next week. So again, make sure you wrote them all down. And yeah, that's it for that.